I think I'm going to have to eat my words a little bit about Love Like the Galaxy. This turned out to be so much more than I thought. Hi, I'm Monique. I am the host of Off by Purple Heart podcast, where I talk to you about K-dramas, C-dramas, BTS, and basically whatever else I want to talk about. Today's episode, I just want to continue talking about my love like the galaxy, which is my love right now. I did a previous podcast episode about this. It was my first impressions, and I came away from the first episode really thinking, you know what, it's cute, it's interesting, but I don't know if it's going to really capture my attention for, like, say the next 10 episodes, never mind the total of 56, which was one thing I was really harping on in the previous episode. So from that recording, I have now watched up to 12 episodes of Love Like the Galaxy, and it's so much more than what I anticipated. For one thing, I really knew I was going to love the female lead character in this show. I thought it was really wonderful seeing how clever she is, but she's even a lot smarter as the show continues. And even with the male lead, I really like that even though he's stoic, he does have a sense of humor, which is something that with this show I didn't anticipate at all, was just how much humor would be packed into it. And while the love story really hasn't fully kicked off, they do actually meet in like about episode 6, so there will be mild spoilers ahead, but it's just going to be like a general discussion about the first 12 episodes. So episode 2 and onwards, one of the first things that really stuck out to me was I was really initially happy when I saw that the actress that was playing the mom in this show was actually similarly playing the mom in Hidden Love, which again I've talked about so many different podcast episodes about how much I love Hidden Love, and I was really excited to see her, and the actress is really doing a great job here. But the mother in this show is absolutely just intolerable. Oh my god. She is very strict. So we learned from the first episode that she's in the military along with the husband, who they had to basically leave the female lead behind to go off to war, and she was left in the care of her second aunt and grandmother, who have given her nothing but complete hell. And they're very dramatic, and they only continue to give her nothing but grief for the next several episodes leading up until like episodes 10 or 12. And the mom is like an iron fist. So just like how she trains her soldiers, she similarly looks at her daughter as someone that's unruly and just completely belligerent and unable to follow rules, whereas we as the viewers can see that the daughter actually is very much as headstrong and as much of a clever strategist as the mom, but the mom really doesn't see those positive qualities yet. Mind you, I'm still really early in the game with this show, so it could be that the mom comes to appreciate just how much of a strategist her daughter is and how much her daughter has actually been paying attention. But in these first initial episodes, the mother is just overbearing, consistently talks down on her, and almost seems to have this level of resentment and jealousy towards her. Like, even we're introduced to a lot of characters along the way. We actually find out that the female lead has brothers. She has like a twin brother, I think, or a fraternal twin, and an older brother, I believe. And we meet them along the way as well. And we learn a little bit more of the background as to why the mom and her dad had to leave her behind, but yet brought sons along with them while they're doing the touring when they're engaged in wartime. And the brothers have a really interesting relationship with her, and they end up defending her quite a bit in these next slew of episodes. But the mom consistently seems to be jealous. Even when she's complimented for something, the mother is like sneering, or she like rolls her eyes, or she scoffs, and she's like, yeah, and finds some type of way to divert attention from her, and is consistently on her for being quote unquote illiterate, not being able to read very well, even though she is very intelligent and bright. And because of her upbringing, and she wasn't really given a chance to actually learn etiquette and reading and other fundamentals like that, because she was left in pretty bad shape because the grandmother and the aunt purposely went out of their way to mistreat her. She's left behind with a lot of gaps in her knowledge, yet is still extremely clever, that we, at least what we've seen in the show thus far. And the mother is just consistently on her. There's even a scene where she like slaps her with a ruler and just gives her the most sneering stare, and you can start to see where the show wants to kind of progressively take the female lead character, to say, you know what, she's going to broaden her horizon, she's going to get out there, and we're going to see just how much her intelligence and her cleverness is going to actually be of an asset, even though she may not have the typical upbringing, or she may not be what's deemed societally in that time period as an accomplished lady. But that's something so far from the truth, and I feel like the show really hammered it in. Like, I actually, weirdly enough, thought there would be a little bit more focus on the romance. I figured it would be slow burn because there is 56 episodes, but I was actually shocked. We don't actually get to see the two leads actually interact until about episode 6, which is actually a really funny interaction that they have together. And then again in about episodes like 11 and 12, we really get to see them interact once again. But the show mainly is about the female lead and the dynamic of her family, and I'm guessing kind of showing you the leader that this woman will become, because I'm getting the sense the female lead character, she is going to be using a lot of those skill sets, and she's going to be involved in this war, and probably will start to learn how to have like a fighting style and actually have to defend herself. We meet a lot of characters. There's at least 3 men that are quote unquote interested in our female lead, and it's all because of just how quick-witted she is and just how bright she is. I mean, they do make remarks about her looks, but in the show narratively it seems to focus on the fact that her intelligence and how witty she is and how quick on her feet is something that's alluring and attractive, especially with the lead male character, General, as his name is escaping me right now, but yes, the General. He in particular takes an interest in her, and it's very intense. Like, he'll stare at her from a distance, and it's so interesting when they first interact. I think in episode 6 there's like a lantern festival, and he's shown in a previous scene to say, I am not really interested in courting or dating anyone. I know that when I lay my eyes on the one for me, I will know who she is at first sight, and she'll be the one to marry. And then other than that, I'm not interested in courtship at all, because there's a princess character that we come across in the show as well that expresses her interest to the General, and he's just kind of not here for it at all. But in this episode 6 with this lantern festival, they actually come to meet in like this life-saving type scenario. There's like this fire that breaks out, and like the last moments of the episode, he kind of just like sweeps her off her feet, and they do kind of like, you know, like a figure skating triple axel in the air, like super overtly dramatic, but he like picks her up with his cape is like billowing in the wind, and she's like kind of looking at him like, oh. And then prior to them meeting together with this whole rescue scenario, he saw her from a distance, and if you look at the expression of his face, and I think Leo Wu did a really good job with this, because his facial expressions, they change like instantaneously in a second. Like, there won't be a lot of movement in his face, but you can tell that his gaze has kind of changed, and he just kind of looks at her in awe, and there's just like this subtle shift, and it's really, really cool. So as I said, I got up to about episode 12 and it just gets that much more interesting and funny. I mean, this female lead, she has no problem actually getting down and fighting. Like, there's quite a few characters that we're introduced to. Some, you know, snotty mean girls that she comes across, that she's putting like a beat down on them, defending her honor. And we also meet like this cousin character that ends up staying in the household with her and her family. And her mom, being the wench that she is, consistently dotes on this cousin and consistently compares the two of them and their intelligence and how demure and well behaved this cousin is. And I like that the show makes her get along with the cousin, and she actually defends her honor, even though it cuts her deeply every single time her mother talks down on her or compares her to the cousin as well, which I really liked. But yeah, she has no problem like using her fists and whooping people. I mean, we get to see her kind of have the mind of an architect. She really seems to be drawn to like architecture and buildings and the mechanics of how structures come together. And she's able to like jerry rig and engineer putting like a swing together, and she's very like hands-on and has a talent in like manual labor and building things and creating things together. So she has a really creative mind as well. But I enjoy in episode 12 she kind of gets separated from her family, and then we start to see the seriousness of the show and some of the things that were kind of introduced in the first episode, with her uncle stealing weaponry from the army, and that storyline really comes into play in Ep 12. It looks like she gets separated from her family, and then she ends up being under attack with the group that she's traveling with, and she has to engineer a plan to kind of get them to safety against these bandits, or seemingly bandits but actually seem like trained soldiers. And the way her mind works, and she just quickly snaps into like leadership role, is really, really good. So there's so much more to the show than the romance, and I figured they would have to have some form of substance and storytelling to have over 50 episodes. But I was really surprised about how much the show is zeroing in on her and her ethos and why she is the way she is, and giving us a little bit more than just a romance piece. I personally think right now it's worth the watch. I'm still hesitant to say for absolute certainty if I'll make it to all 56 episodes, but I'm definitely going to stick in for a lot of them. I can see myself right now easily binging another like 5-6 episodes after the recording of this. That's how enthralled I am with it, and I'm actually really curious to see when the romance will kick in, because it's definitely going to be slow burn, considering that the vast majority of the 12 episodes are two leads that are supposed to have this really epic romance, maybe have the grand total of like 6 scenes together in 12 episodes. So the show is really going to take its time to crafting and building everything together. So I'm going to keep tuned. I'm just going to stay tuned into this, and if I'm continuing to enjoy it or whatever commentary I have, I'm going to update you via the podcast as well. So look forward to that, because I definitely think I'm going to enjoy it even more so. So that's going to conclude for this podcast episode about Love Like the Galaxy. If you're watching this via YouTube, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I love you. If you're listening via Spotify, I love you as well. You're a real one if you're listening via Spotify. That audio, so you're a real one. I really appreciate it. Please share with any of your K-drama, C-drama, even BTS loving friends. Please share podcast. I'd appreciate it. And until the next episode, bye.